The United States is flexing its muscle on the Korean Peninsula, docking a nuclear-powered warship in the south. The USS Ronald Reagan, along with its strike group ships, aircraft, and sailors, arrived Saturday amid heightened rhetoric between Washington and Pyongyang. RT America's Alex Mihailovich joins us from Toronto with more on this visit. Alex, an increased U.S. presence in South Korea for another round of war games seems to be increasing tensions in the region once again. What's the latest?
Well, yeah, when you send out an aircraft carrier like the USS Ronald Reagan, which with all its might, and plus it's flanked by 40 other warships and submarines, well, it's a sight to be seen. And Busan is now the port where the Ronald Reagan is docked. But a lot of people there aren't too happy about it. It's simply because South Koreans, for the most part, don't want a war in their neighborhood because they know that they would not be coming out on the bright side. Nobody would if North and South Korea go at each other. So some of the people in that area, have been protesting the U.S. ships that are there, basically trying to downplay it. And that's something that we've seen from South Korea itself as well. They've been trying to kind of deflate this rhetoric that's been going on between the U.S. and North Korea, and hoping to get back to the negotiating table and get something a little bit more peaceful-like in talks instead of this back and forth that we've seen. Now, as you mentioned, these exercises ended last Friday, but today a new set of exercises has begun for another 5 days of military saber rattling, as we like to call it sometimes, and that's exactly what's happening. So if you're North Korea at this point and you're seeing this, these exercises are right in your face because they're right next to you, and of course the rhetoric comes along with it. We heard from President Donald Trump in the past saying, totally destroy. Those were his words when it came to North Korea and what he's going to do, and then Pyongyang rebuted with ashes and darkness for the U.S. Now, we're not talking about two guys that are posturing in front of each other. We're talking about millions of lives at stake, and this type of rhetoric, as you know, is not helpful at all.
And as you know, Alex, these are exactly the kind of war games which North Korea continuously cites as the reason they pursue their nuclear program. The North has reached out to the United Nations about these military drills between the United States and South Korea. What can you tell us?
We have to take a moment sometimes to take a step back and think, what is North Korea thinking? What is Kim Jong-un thinking? And the fact of the matter is that he's seen people like Gaddafi and Saddam Hussein go down when the U.S. comes into your neighborhood. Now you have this very similar scenario here. I mean, yes, it's been a very long time, decades that we've seen these type of exercises between South Korea and the U.S., basically showing their might in the neighborhood. But for North Korea, this is an act of aggression. This is in their face. So they actually went to the UN Security Council. They wrote a letter there basically saying that these joint military drills, we're appealing that they stop. We don't want to see this anymore because that's the reason we're building up our arms, because in a reaction to this. And you really need to think about this. If you're a country like North Korea, you're not some type of superpower in this world. So as Kim Jong-un, you're going to do everything to save your own butt in a world that right now is in the situation it is. And when you see somebody knocking at your door in that way, you're going to react in a way that's very defensive. So in many ways, that's exactly what's happening. Now, you have countries like Russia and China coming to the table. They're asking for something that's called a double freeze. So stop with these drills for the U.S. and South Korea, slow that down, and with North Korea, stop testing these missiles and trying to show off to say, hey, we can defend ourselves. That's China and Russia coming to the table. Sounds pretty reasonable. The U.S. says, we don't like that proposal. So as it stands right now, this could just continue, and hopefully it'll stay in terms of just rhetoric and maybe war games, if you want to call it games, instead of turning into something much worse. But right now, these war games seem to be a lot less helpful than helpful in the region.
All right, Alex Mihailovich in Toronto for us. Thank you so much for that report.
Thank you.